In 1923, two men built a truck in Seattle with a simple goal: survive what others could not. What began as an experiment in custom engineering would, decades later, be pushed to its limits on the edge of the Australian Outback. Kenworth did not just arrive in Australia. It was forced to evolve or disappear. How did a brand born in American logging camps become the benchmark for conquering the world's harshest freight routes? The answer explains not only the rise of an icon, but the stakes facing every truck that dares the red center. In a small workshop in Seattle, 1923, Harry Kent and Edgar Worthington set out to build something other manufacturers would not even attempt: a truck tough enough for the punishing demands of the Pacific Northwest logging industry. Their approach was personal. Each vehicle began as a blank slate, custom built to handle steep grades, mud, and loads that pushed early engines and frames to their limits. Kent brought practical experience from running a trucking business, and Worthington contributed engineering insight and business acumen. Together, they combined their names, Ken and Worth, to form Kenworth, a company built on custom engineering. The first trucks rolled out with robust, riveted frames and inline engines, designed to haul logs through rough terrain where a breakdown meant more than lost time. It could strand a crew deep in the forest. By 1924, Kenworth sold 80 trucks in its first full year. A number small by modern standards, but significant for a company emphasizing quality over quantity. Early buyers were not looking for mass-produced models. They wanted machines that would last, tailored for their unique routes and cargo. Word spread quickly among loggers and haulers. Kenworth trucks did not just survive. They thrived where others failed. That reputation for custom-built durability became the company's calling card, and it set the foundation for everything that followed. By the early 1940s, Kenworth's workshop in Seattle was humming with a new sense of urgency. The United States had entered World War II, and demand for reliable heavy-duty trucks soared overnight. Kenworth shifted its focus almost entirely to military production, building vehicles for the United States Army and the United States Navy that had to withstand punishing conditions from the deserts of North Africa to the jungles of the Pacific. Assembly lines expanded, and the workforce grew as the company delivered thousands of trucks designed for troop transport, fuel hauling, and equipment movement. Wartime contracts pushed Kenworth to innovate at scale, introducing standardized parts and more efficient assembly methods. When the war ended in 1945, Kenworth faced a transformed market. The skills and capacity developed during the conflict gave the company an edge as the world returned to civilian life. Instead of scaling back, Kenworth retooled its factories for commercial production, applying lessons from the battlefield to long-haul freight. The trucks rolling out in the late 1940s and the 1950s were bigger, stronger, and more refined than ever before. Hauliers and fleet operators took notice. Kenworth became known not just for durability, but for delivering a premium product, trucks that commanded a higher price because they could handle the toughest routes with fewer breakdowns. By the mid-1950s, Kenworth had earned a reputation as one of North America's leading heavy-duty brands, setting the stage for its global ambitions. In 1955, Ed Cameron and George Blomfield set foot in Seattle, searching for a truck tough enough to survive Australia's vast, punishing interior. 7 years later, the first Kenworths, Custom S models with Detroit diesel engines, arrived in Sydney. Each one was a rare sight on Australian roads. Importing these trucks was no simple feat. High tariffs and strict import rules meant every vehicle came at a steep cost, and assembly had to be finished in local workshops to meet regulations. Cameron, a war veteran turned produce haulier, persisted through shifting government policy and rising expenses, convinced that Kenworth's rugged engineering was the answer for outback hauliers facing heat, dust, and endless distances. By the late 1960s, Demand outpaced the slow trickle of imports. Haulage companies wanted more than a handful of American-built trucks. They needed a steady supply, tailored for Australian roads and built to last. PACCAR, Kenworth's parent company, responded with a decisive investment, a $1 million commitment to build a dedicated manufacturing plant in Bayswater, Victoria. In 1970, the doors opened on a 56,000 square foot facility, and a new chapter began. The first Australian-built Kenworth, a cab-over K125, rolled off the Bayswater line in March 1971. It was more than a milestone for the company. It was a turning point for the industry. Instead of relying on imports or adapting American models after arrival, Kenworth could now assemble trucks from the ground up to suit local needs. Right-hand drive, reinforced frames, and cooling systems meant for days of 45 degrees Celsius heat. The plant started with around 100 workers, producing a single truck each day. But the appetite for these locally built machines grew quickly. By 1978, the factory had doubled in size, with 300 new jobs added and contracts rolling in from major fleets like Ansett Freight Express and Finemores Transport, who alone ordered 31 prime movers in a single deal worth $3 million. Bayswater was not just a factory, it became a symbol of Australian manufacturing resilience. As production ramped up, so did the expertise of the local workforce, many of whom would spend decades building trucks designed to withstand the worst the Outback could throw at them. With each new build, Kenworth Australia moved further from its roots as an importer, laying the groundwork for a legacy of local innovation and adaptation that would define the brand for generations. By the mid-1970s, Kenworth's Australian engineers faced a unique challenge: how to build trucks tough enough for the Outback's relentless heat, choking dust, and punishing loads, while still fitting within strict vehicle length laws. The answer was not a single breakthrough, but a series of practical, hard-won adaptations, each one a direct response to the demands of Australia's interior. Traditional American long-nose trucks offered excellent airflow for engine cooling, but Australian regulations limited overall vehicle length, threatening to cut into precious payload space. Kenworth's solution was the W900SAR, introduced in 1975. Its signature angled bonnet allowed engineers to fit a massive radiator and high horsepower engines up front, while keeping the bumper-to-back of cab measurement just short enough to maximize trailer length. The SR's design turned a regulatory headache into a technical advantage, and Outback hauliers could run bigger engines and heavier loads without sacrificing payload or risking overheating. On days of 45 degrees Celsius, cooling was only one piece of the puzzle. The Outback's fine red dust could choke an engine in hours, so Kenworth developed advanced filtration systems. Heavy-duty air cleaners mounted high and shielded from road grit became standard. Engineers tested filter elements for thousands of kilometers on corrugated tracks, looking for any sign of dust bypass. Operators reported that engines lasted longer, with fewer breakdowns in the most remote parts of the country. Fuel range was another critical concern. In regions where the next roadhouse might be 800 kilometers away, running out of diesel was not just inconvenient, it was dangerous. Kenworth trucks left the Bayswater plant with enormous fuel tanks slung under reinforced chassis rails, sometimes carrying over 1,000 litres at a time. These tanks, crafted from thick steel or aluminum, were designed to handle the twisting forces of rough roads and the weight of triple or quad trailer combinations. Chassis strength was the final ingredient. Australian road trains placed stresses on truck frames far beyond what most American highways demanded. Kenworth responded by specifying thicker, high-tensile steel rails and heavy-duty crossmembers, tested to withstand the flex and torsion of hauling 200-ton combinations over washboard tracks. Every adaptation, from angled bonnets and oversized radiators to dust filtration, massive tanks and reinforced frames, reflected a simple engineering philosophy: Build for the realities of Australia, not the assumptions of overseas design. These practical choices set the technical foundation for Kenworth's rise as the backbone of heavy haul and road train operations across the continent. Introduced in 1991, the Kenworth T900 arrived as a purpose. Built answer to the demands of Australia's toughest hauls. Its long nose design, oversized radiator and reinforced chassis were not borrowed from overseas templates. They were shaped by years of hard lessons in the Outback. Its first runs tackled the endless cattle routes of the Northern Territory and the iron ore corridors of Western Australia, where road trains stretched to triple and quad configurations, and temperatures soared past 45 degrees Celsius. Early production models featured Cummins NTC 400 engines, 18-speed Road Ranger gearboxes, and fuel tanks big enough for 1,000-kilometre journeys between roadhouses. Cummins power and long-range fuel capacity were part of the package that made sustained Outback runs possible. Operators quickly recognised what set the T900 apart. It could be rebuilt, not just repaired. Frames and cabs were designed for overhaul after overhaul, with many units clocking up over 1 million kilometres before their first major refresh. Owner-drivers and fleet managers invested in these trucks, knowing they could outlast economic cycles and mining booms. In the Pilbara, the T900 became a fixture in convoys hauling iron ore, diesel and machinery between remote mines and coastal ports. By 1992, T900s were pulling triple road trains in the red dust, and by 1994, they powered the first quad combinations, handling gross weights above 200 tonnes. The T900's reputation spread as a symbol of independence and pride. Owner-drivers customised their rigs with polished tanks, custom paint and hand-stitched interiors. Stories of T900s rebuilt 3 or 4 times and handed down through families became part of Australian trucking folklore. In mining towns and cattle depots, the sight of a T900 leading a 50-metre road train came to represent not just engineering, but a way of life built on resilience and trust. The model's dominance through the 1990s and the 2000s confirmed Kenworth's place at the heart of Australia's heavy haul industry, a legacy built on strength, adaptability, and the unbreakable bond between truck and driver. By the 1990s, Kenworth engineers in Australia faced mounting pressure from longer road trains, surging mining demands, and tightening emission standards. The old formula of sheer engine size and brute force was no longer enough. Every component, from engines to safety systems, had to evolve without sacrificing the reliability that had become Kenworth's hallmark. Engine technology led the charge. Early workhorses, like the Cummins N-Series, gave way to the ISX and later the X15. These engines delivered high torque at low engine speeds, crucial for hauling massive loads across vast distances. The X15, with more than 600 horsepower, became a mainstay in the Pilbara, pulling triple and quad combinations through punishing conditions. Fleet managers valued not just the power, but longer intervals between rebuilds, critical when downtime meant major losses for mining operations. Transmissions kept pace. The familiar Road Ranger manuals, once a rite of passage for drivers, began to be replaced by automated manual transmissions. Eaton UltraShift and newer automated systems reduced driver fatigue and made gear changes more precise, especially on endless Outback runs. These systems let new drivers adapt quickly, while seasoned operators noticed less wear on both machine and body. As gross combination masses climbed, safety systems became essential. Kenworth integrated electronic braking, advanced engine retarders, and heavy-duty suspensions tailored for Australia's harsh roads. These upgrades were not just about meeting regulations. They gave operators real control over 200-ton combinations, whether on slick bitumen or loose gravel. Safety was not optional. It was a practical requirement. The return of cab-over models like the K200 and the K220 marked another shift. Designed for routes with strict length limits, these trucks combined modern Cummins engines, automated gearboxes, and integrated safety features in a compact frame. For B-double and B-triple work on the East Coast, the K series offered unmatched maneuverability and power. Each innovation, from powertrain to cab, reflected a single principle: adapt to the job, but never compromise on durability. By the 2010s, that approach kept Kenworth ahead, trusted by miners, fleet operators, and owner-drivers across Australia. PACCAR's global reach has provided Kenworth Australia with a unique advantage. It gives access to advanced engineering, shared platforms, and a steady flow of resources that few local manufacturers can match. At the heart of this operation stands the Bayswater plant in Victoria, a facility that has grown from its modest beginnings in 1971 to become a powerhouse of heavy vehicle production. By 2021, the factory employed more than 1,300 people and was building up to 21 trucks per day, including both Kenworth and DAF models. That same year, the plant celebrated a major milestone. The 70,000th Australian-built Kenworth rolled off the line, a testament to decades of sustained demand and manufacturing expertise. Despite operating within a global supply chain, Kenworth Australia retains the freedom to engineer trucks for local conditions, drawing on PACCAR's technical backbone while maintaining a distinctly Australian focus. Leadership at PACCAR Australia, including Managing Director Andrew Hadjikaku, has emphasised the importance of balance between global support and local design. They ensure every truck meets the expectations of operators who rely on them in some of the world's harshest environments. The Bayswater plant's output now supplies not just Australia, but also exports to New Zealand, Thailand, and Papua New Guinea. This is evidence of a manufacturing model that thrives on both international support and local innovation. Industry analysts now find themselves asking how long the classic long-nose Kenworth can hold its ground in a world racing toward decarbonisation. Australian regulators have set targets for net zero freight by 2050, and new heavy vehicles must already meet Euro 6 emissions standards. While Kenworth's Bayswater plant continues to build diesel-powered T909s and cab-overs for Outback hauls, the conversation is changing. PACCAR, Kenworth's parent company, has launched battery electric and hydrogen prototypes overseas, and government incentives are beginning to nudge the industry towards zero-emission trials. Yet, for operators running triple and quad road trains across the Pilbara, the idea of a battery-powered prime mover raises more questions than answers, especially when it comes to range, charging infrastructure, and performance in 50 degrees Celsius heat. So far, there is no Australian ban on long-nose conventionals or diesel power, but the pressure is mounting. Engineers and fleet managers are watching global trends and local policy closely, weighing the proven reliability of traditional designs against the uncertainty of new technology. The future of the long-nose Kenworth will be shaped not just by engineering, but by the pace of regulatory change and the realities of the Australian landscape. On Australian roads today, nearly half of all heavy-duty trucks bear the Kenworth badge, a testament to adaptation, not nostalgia. As climate, freight, and technology demands shift, the question is not whether Kenworth can keep up, but how it will define the next era of Australian transport. The open highway is still unforgiving. Only machines and mindsets built for change endure. Share your thoughts on where Kenworth goes from here.